face. Oh, hey, am I live? I think I am, which is good news, because I heard myself then, which is excellent. And okay, so that's probably the wrong thing. Let me show my desk there. No, maybe not. Yes. So thanks for signing in. I'm going to start the session as I mean to go on with a bang from the gong, of course. Hopefully that won't break your speakers or anything. Trying to be gentle with the gong. So it's me again, it's Robin, and from the UK, and hopefully the stream is working. Actually, I can see the stream. That looks good. I've got the chat up just in case one of my 2 fans turns up. That would be fantastic. Please say something in the chat if you see any problems, because I've had problems with streaming last week. So I'm just going to write in the chat now myself and just say hello. So check the audio out as well. Hey, I'm stuck in a dungeon! And just turn off some of these noises as well. That's a bit better. I could turn the bonfire back on. Maybe not. So what am I doing? I'm going to be doing what I do every week, which is pulling up monsters and filling up dungeon rooms using the Dungeon Crawl Classics books. I'm still echoing a bit there, I think. And the aim being that I'm writing an adventure at the moment, and as I fill out the adventure, I type it up. And using the good Dungeon Crawl Classics books, I'm able to do that. And of course, the other thing is, although I'm writing this for Dungeon Crawl Classics and I'm creating monsters using stats in here, these books themselves, the Monster Alphabet and the Dungeon Alphabet, both, completely system independent. They'll work with anything, D&D, anything you're doing, those all work well for you because they don't have sort of stats and things in there. They have ideas and hints for how certain scenarios and things and monsters will work, which may involve a certain amount of hits or damage or will saves and things, but they don't really they're generic, so they don't really focus on Dungeon Crawl Classics, although for my usages here I am doing it with Dungeon Crawl Classics. And if I just show the whole desktop there so I can show these books in all their glory. I also have the Cthulhu Alphabet, which is a recent purchase in the last few weeks. And there were a few interesting things in there. There's these Voorish hand symbols, which are kind of obviously connected to Cthulhu and cultish type behaviour, but I quite like the hand symbol type magic to be used in the setting that I'm putting together. And also, that was it. Although I did have the annual as well, which I haven't used as much as I'd like. I probably need to dive into this more outside of this session, but it has some nice gods and patrons, deities and things in there as well. And I'm going to create a deity in the setting that I'm putting together, so I have been thinking what might be worth sort of modelling it on something that's in there and then just stripping it down to what I want, because a deity is like a 2 or 3 page piece of work and I'm sort of keeping away from that at the moment. So I use my Raspberry Pi desktop, which I've just switched over to. And I always like to just mention that I'm using a Raspberry Pi because it's a simple little single board computer, and I'm on the wrong thing to show it, but I've got my overlays and there it is, Raspberry Pi. So basically a Raspberry is just like a little single board computer, and that's what I use on here. It's running a version of Linux. And it runs a Chromium browser, so I can use all of the Google Docs stuff live on here and type up my adventure as I'm doing it. So I'll get rid of that as well. And just to mention again, obviously this is on the Goodman Games stream, so just welcome any input if you do manage to come along. I can see that there's 6 little faces. It's telling me on the stream screen, so please ask me questions and stuff as I get stuck in. I'll welcome anything really. So yeah, so the adventure is set, we've called it a working title, Beneath the Valley of the Ultranulls. It's set in this place called Scarp Sea, although I haven't really, it's not a whole realm or anything at the moment, it's just one region that I put together. I sketched this out, so if you've not been following these streams that happen every week, if you go about 9 episodes, there's a recorded one where I draw this out. It's the first thing I did, and in fact that was the first way I started this, is I drew out the map and then I started to fill it out with named items and various other things as I went. And in the middle of it, you've got the obelisk here, and this is the main dungeon, which is like a weird old strange temple that's a block of obsidian with an entranceway in the top, where there's a goddess dying in there. So all the good usual Dungeon Crawl Classics stuff, in that the characters are going to encounter gods and goddesses and get involved in sort of very dangerous activities, is the idea. And the last couple of weeks I was doing the barrows over here, and I think I've done the barrows now, so I'm back really over to the obelisks, and probably I'm thinking maybe like within about 2 more episodes I'll have most of the whole adventure written down, really, because it's only going to be short, and a couple of key locations, one being the location I did with the barrows over the last few weeks, and the other being the main obelisk there. So what I'm trying to avoid to do is every week going through and telling everybody about the adventure over and over. So I'm just going to dive into where I was, and also I'm going to do some tidy up on my stat blocks, which will allow me to kind of review some of the monsters I've done before in the obelisks, in the 2 layers of the obelisks. By doing some tidy up, at the same time I'll be able to explain those and get the document back into shape. So about halfway through things, I started to put together this newer looking, just turn off one of my stream screens there, this newer looking stat block. And of course in the nice Dungeon Crawl Classics adventure modules, they put everything in that nice little tight short stat block in that certain sequence that repeats in every book, so you know where you are. But for me, while I was writing on the screen here, it was much easier to have fields to fill in, so all I've done is a table. But essentially it's all the goodness of a standard Goodman Games stat block with initiative, alignment, armor class, hit dice, movement, and then the saves over here. So fortitude, reflex, and will. And of course, if you are familiar with Dungeon Crawl Classics or not, but you get an action dice for monsters. So basically, rather than saying something has 2 attacks, you just give it an extra action dice, and that might be 2d20, it might be 2d16, 2d24, whatever, or 3 or 4. So the bigger and more powerful the monster is, generally the more attacks it might get, and therefore you would give it an extra action dice. And that's described in the Goodman Games way of just another d20 or another dice of a certain kind. So these were the first creatures that the players are potentially going to encounter, the huggers, but I'm just using that template, so I'm going to copy and paste this down. So I'm going to get all these books out of the way. So, and if you're a bit late to the stream, I'll just show my books off again. There you go. Monster Alphabet. I haven't got the special cover version of that, but thanks Joe Bittman and Michael Curtis. Excellent book, that one. I understand Michael Curtis started these sort of books by creating lots of tables on a blog, and then these glorious things were eventually brought together, tables that he did into something that you could use to create adventures. So yeah, fantastic episode. Just get all that out of the way. We'll only be grabbing it again in a minute, and then do this. So of course, as I was saying before, I've got my Raspberry Pi, and I can much more quickly bring that up, which I use as my desktop. And I've just got a separate little mouse that I use for that on there, because it's a separate desktop and it's a little wireless mouse. These are great, by the way, these Logitech Pebbles, I think they're called, like low-cost mouse, but they work a treat for not taking up any room. Anyway, back to the Raspberry Pi. And now I can cut and paste my stat block and tidy up the stuff that's in the obelisks and talk through the obelisks while I'm there as well, just because it's about time I revisited the dungeon of the obelisks and sorted that out. So this was the barrow mound anyway, so you can see that's going by. I've been doing that for the last 2 weeks, so I won't touch on that at the moment, with all the creatures and stuff that's in there. Scrolling down, a bit of background about a dragon that's related to the adventure that I've put in there as well. Myram Eagles, who's like an old cultist from the forgotten cult, which I've now forgotten because it's been 2 weeks. Oh, there you go. The Cult of the Forgotten Eye has long been forgotten along with her, so she's been put in this room inside the barrow and left in stasis for 100 years, so she's gone a bit crazy, and I used some of the good parts in Cthulhu for the madness rolls on that. So moving through. So this was the Ibis avatar. So I used the Dungeon monster book to create this by pulling together a multi-headed beast. It was like a lion's body, ibis face, and I gave it like a sonic spear that it would scream out of its mouth that it could fire. And this one, as I mentioned higher up, there you go, I've just done that by mistake. This one I gave a 2d20 action dice. So let me move down a bit quicker because I've just gone a bit funny there. There we go, Ibis avatar. Just mention that again. Oh, there's the rugs. If I do a carriage return there, we'll get it onto one page and be able to read it back. So just explain the Ibis avatar. So yes, I gave it 2d20 action dice so it could do 2 attacks. And I was probably going to say it could do 1 sonic spear per round, so I might actually just put that in its special. So sonic spear, I've already said it, once per round the Ibis avatar will scream with a thunderous howl, releasing a spear of sound. This visible wave piercing sound can target out to 6 foot, and the Ibis is able to both see and fire its screeching spear sound through walls of up to a thickness of 5 foot, I've said. So the idea is that with this avatar, it's guarding a final room in there, a worship room, and it's a large room with dry cracked flagstones with raised centre over a 10-foot tall dragon statue with mottled black and grey granite. Oh, hi there, Violet Rajlani. Thanks for saying hello. I've got the other thing this week, I've got the chat up. I put the chat on a separate screen out of the way last week, and I had someone come in and say, oh, hello, I want to get involved. And then I didn't see it, and they went away. So I'm not very good at the whole audience retention, but if anybody does say anything, I can answer it. So that was the Ibis avatar. It's wrapped around a dragon statue. It's got its foot on the dragon's lower jaw because I rolled in Michael Curtis's book, and it said that the statue had something missing that then generated something else, like a key event. So I've said that the Ibis is trying to stop the dragon's draw from being put back onto the statue. If they defeat the Ibis creature, they will potentially be able to reunite the dragon's draw with the dragon's statue, which is going to alert the presence of Idinair, the god, to the local resident dragon that's up in the mountains. So that's something they may want to do, but also may not as well, depending on how things go. Right, so scooch down then really to the Obelix. So this is the big main dungeon, and I'll just bring up my screen to show that on the desk there. So here it is, there's the Obelix in the middle. I've detailed 2 floors in it. I may put a third, like a basement floor in there, but I've done 2 floors so far. And that's the main location of the adventure, in that the goddess in there, Idinair, is dying. She's slowly fading. She's been in there 900 years plus, but she's not got any followers anymore, and she's fading away. And there's a creature on the 2nd floor down that's kind of half the cause of that, in that her old followers have forgotten their ways and are no longer worshipping her. But the followers of hers are in there as well, and they're the Ultranulls, which is the namesake of the adventure, Beneath the Valley of the Ultranulls. Yes, so let's get in there. So the first floor of the Obelix, it has steps down from the roof, so it's a big black square Obelix thing, 130 foot or more foot taller than that. I can't remember which I wrote. But when they climb down from the roof, they're into this room 7. No, that isn't the right map. Let me find the right dungeon map. There's the Obelix room, 1st floor. So yes, as they approach the Obelix, the first thing they do if they land on the top, however they're going to get onto the top, is these gull bats. And there we go, I can see they've got the old stat block which I need to tidy up, so I can talk through those as I tidy up the gull bats. So there's my Huggers stat block, and all I'm going to do is just migrate over the stats for the gull bat. which are like a leathery gull thing, which again I used a cave cricket from the DCC main book to detail that out. So I can see initiative is +2, alignment chaotic, AC is 14, so they're a little bit more agile, even though they're kind of small bird-like things. And I've got hit dice as 2d8, so I gave them quite a lot of hit dice actually. So they're not that small. And I gave them a fly. I gave them move 10 foot slash 10 foot if they're on the floor, because they're not that fast. Just stretch that out to make it fit in. And then attack is a claw. And the other thing I've done is I've now been taking out the special kind of background thing. I don't know why I put it in the big old chart before, in the table before, but it's a bit of a mess putting it in there, so I've taken that out. So I'll just cut that out of there and hope that it doesn't try and drop a table in for me at the same time when I paste it in here. It has. I don't want it in a table. Just get rid of that. Fun with copy and paste. That's how I want it to select, not the entire table. That'll do it. I think I've got a wind situation blowing my door. I feel like I'm on a ship or something at the moment. I'm going to go and shut that door. But that's it, it's in there. Just shut the door. I'm back. Right, so that's copied in the description. The black leathery winged gull-sized bird, rather than the normal feathered wings, the gullbats have stretched dark skin over bony tipped wings that they feature a striking red beak. So I've done the move, I've done the hit dice. I haven't done the action dice, but I've only given them one. So yeah, they've only got the one action dice, and fortitude is 1. Reflex is going to be quite good because they're agile 2, and will. And will I had 3? A -3? How did I get that up? I think I gave them, probably because I copied the stats from the book, so I'm going to give them that, and I'm going to give them 2 in reflex because they are fast moving bird things. And will save, I'm not going to give them anything, so that's fine. And the attack is claw. Why did I write claw +1 and then bite 1d3? It doesn't help much, does it? So I've got claw +1, and then the other thing that they can do is they can do the combined guano bomb, where a whole bunch of them fly at a player at once and kind of strike with the guano, kind of seagull style. Guano strike. And I'll put that down as special. I think that's it. I think I just said 1d3, so I'll get rid of that. Those are not my children, they are neighbourhood rugrats. But they're out there enjoying themselves, which is good. It's 4th of July today. Right, get rid of that old stat block now that we've got back to the gullbats. Good. So basically with the dive bomb I used it a bit like the cave crickets have this kind of combined action that they can do when they attack. So you roll a 1d20 to determine the number of gullbats that join the fight, add 1d4 per gullbat and compare that to the total roll to the stamina of characters within 100 foot. If the total is higher than a player's stamina, they may they take the difference in damage. So basically they're just struck by this guano strike that comes down while they're on the top of the obelix, trying to find their way in. And that's given me the wrong font there, so I don't know if I can, just trying to keep things tidy, keep the font the same as well. So that's that done, that's that sort of tidied up a little bit with the Golbats on there. And then moving through to the other monsters, and we can talk through the rooms as we go. So the obelix to start with there on its level 1. So of course it has a flat roof on top of this whole section. And when they come into room 1, it's like a large corridor kind of entrance hall area. And then there's a flooded room here with a giant crab in. So that's probably the first thing I'll do as they explore. If they go that way, they'll meet the giant crab, which I have detailed under the water. So that room is, now that is interesting because I've started to do the rooms having a description with the read aloud text in italics, but I haven't done that for the giant crab below the surface because I just started out when I was doing that. I hadn't got that sorted. So I'll do it stat block first so we can talk about the giant crab as I put it together. Oh, I didn't change that there either. And basically I can now copy that up. So I've given it an initiative 2, action die 1, AC 18 because it's got such a hard carapace. And the dice, hit dice is 2d8 plus 2. And my tidy little stat block is getting stretched in every direction as I do this. Oh, Mark, happy fake birthday, thanks. Yeah, Twitch is acting a bit weird this morning, so I'll catch the video for this later. Oh, what's it? It's not happening weird for you right now, is it? Because that's one thing I'm concerned of, if the sound's not right or something, but as long as you're all right. Thanks, Mark, for popping in. Yeah, to explain the fake birthday, I never put my real birthday in on any social media platform. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Google, Facebook. So I picked the 4th of July as my birthday. So it's when you've got several thousand friends on Facebook that are all saying happy birthday, it's a bit embarrassing when it's not your birthday, which is not, because I never put the real birthday into Facebook. So yeah, I mean, what they're going to do with your name anyway, with your birthday anyway, it's apart from tell your friends when your birthday is, and you get nice hellos when it's your birthday. So we've got Fortitude 1, Reflex 0 and Will 0. So basically it's a reasonably swift little crab, but we haven't given it any reflex. So it's, I might put its Fortitude up because it's such a heavy monster. I'll just do that because I feel like it. And its attack, it's got claws plus 5. And they're going to do a bit more than the usual damage. Where's that stretching off there? 2d6 plus 2 per claw. And I think, yeah, it's not going to have the guano strike either. Obviously, that's the Golbat. Seems a shame, since I was sort of aiming this at level 3 to 4-ish, seems a shame not to give it 2 action dice, given that it has 2 claws, but I don't. I'm going to give it 2 action dice, so it's got 2 attacks, and then worry about if that doesn't work later on, as in it's maybe too powerful. We'll see what happens when I start playtesting and put my party through there. That's everything else done, so that's tidied up that mess of a stat block there. Whoa! There you go, that's the problem you get sometimes with Google Docs. I just thought I was going to select a table. I end up selecting the entire document. So, get that down there. Delete it. And then get rid of the table altogether. So monsters, a giant cloud is murky waters. So I'm going to go back up because, as I said, what I haven't done is I've written an intro for the main entrance hall area, but I didn't then write an intro for, you know, a read aloud block essentially for the next room, because back when I was doing this I was just sort of rushing through. So now I've got a sort of template. I know that I want to do it in a specific way to sort of match how they do it in the Goodman Games books, just to make sure I'm doing the right thing. So room 1A, I'll just call it the pool room. And then get rid of that thing about a giant crab under the surface, because really this is the bit that the judge needs to read to the players before you get onto that. And then the only other thing is that entranceway hall, which is now half over one page and another page. Bring that back up a bit. That hasn't even got any text underneath it. So let's start there. It is clear that the entire structure is cut from the same material as the outer walls, the obelisk. When they reach the bottom of the spur of the carved steps into an entrance hall, carved and weather worn, I was going to say. Whoops, steps in the wrong place now. You enter an entrance hall. It's empty. This is empty, although it's lined with niches, each holding the bust. No, it's not empty then, is it? So this cool damp room is lined with niches, each holding the bust of a long forgotten individual. I'm going to call that subject. There are 6 in total, and each of them they'll just say, other than, oh, so now I need to detail the exits on there. Just go back up. So there it is. There is an exit in the north and the south. Exit to the north. Both are wooden doors. Just on a hello, new here, so pardon any. Yeah, what is an obelisk? It's a very large building. Thanks for asking, Just Honor. If I bring up the desktop, it's just a word I made up to describe a very big dungeon type temple that's been transported here from during a wizard battle over nearly 1,000 years ago, and it ended up in the middle of this ravine, and with no really easy way to get in. But these local villages originally, when it arrived, started to worship it over 1,000 years ago, but time has now passed by and there's no further worship going on, which means there's a goddess in there that who had been torn from her own sort of realm, and she's no longer got any followers, so she's fading away. She has maybe like a few weeks left to live until the party encounter her and get in there and get into all sorts of trouble. So it's large dungeon type thing, and I'm detailing the floors of that at the moment as I'm just tidying up. So there you go, and I'll switch back to my desktop. Yeah, so the obelisk entrance hall back on there. So as you're saying, there's the map, and I picked this map that's a nice square shape, so that represents the top floor, and that obelisk that I just pointed at on the map. In fact, I think I can overlay it. So where is it? There it is. So right in the middle there is the obelisk, and it has a tiny little entrance with steps down where they first encounter these gullbats, which I just fixed the stat block on. They've now walked down that stairway on the top, on the centre of that map there, and this is where they find themselves in room 1. And I'm just tidying things up now, because previously, as I said, I wasn't actually properly writing things in a way of saying that there's the read aloud text and then there's the sort of judge text behind it. So both wooden doors feature some carvings which look to be related to a scene with various sigils and inscriptions below. These are arcane in nature, and a wizard can attempt intelligence to determine which are twin suns, I'm going to say, stars that are not naturally occurring in this region. So basically they get a view for, hang on a minute, this does feel like a bit of an alien object in there. The doors are locked. I'll just say the doors are unlocked. And I hadn't put any traps or anything on there. It's just a normal entrance hole. So then if they go to the north, they end up in the pool room. So again, I need to do the read aloud block for that. Oh, thanks, Just Honor. Yes. Yeah, I mean, just to whiz back to the top, Just Honor, I'm on page 15. There's the name of the adventure. It's Beneath the Valley of the Ultranulls, and the idea is that this goddess had some worshippers before she was flung into this realm, and they're still residing on the next dungeon level down, but they've stopped worshipping her, so she's fading away. And when the players first encounter her, Idenea, the goddess, they'll discover that she's only like a set of vascular system and a brain on a stem, because there's very little of her left before she fades out. So back to page 15. Down here, and we have the entrance hall. That's done. So now read aloud block for the pool room. Just say something like 80 foot square. Shows a large. I can actually pull that up as well, make that italic so that it's all on the part of the same thing, because I'd kind of written it as if it was a read aloud for the players before. So this 80 foot square pool room features a large central dais in, I've already said it's central dais with I'm not going to say large, just going to say 7 foot tall. Statue of a bullhorn man featuring a curved tail. The silver is tarnished, but clearly, if some pressure notes, the statue appears to be pointing down at its feet, where a plaque can be seen on the floor. Now, what we said about the inscription, which I shall bring it back up to here. So the inscription on this room, when we rolled it up in the dungeon book, I shall put it here so it's more relevant having what the inscriptions are. So a set of writings at the foot of the Silver Devil statue and can be memorized phonetically despite it being a different language. So this is actually something that needs to be read out to get to the next floor. So whether they want to memorize that or not is up to them, but it will make it easier to get onto the next floor. So if memorized, it can be spoken to the door And then I'll just remind myself of the room and the door's name, because I actually created a door that was an intelligence door to get down to the next level. I need to fix all those stat blocks there, which I've messed up. Some random text gone into there. That's probably deleted my map potentially. Yes, so I said this room was a grand entrance hall to this floor of the temple. There's various drapes painted in wooden panels. The only obvious exit, the door in the north, which is made of the same rusting iron. Yeah, I'm going to release it. I don't know what I'm going to do. Either just stick it as a free download, or I might get a printed, might do like a print on demand type thing. But so then the door is stuck. The door is a stuck-up privileged old priest of the temple called Ajax, and since his death he's been bound into the door to first check for the rites of passage. So the rusting iron mounted statue in here will attack and animate. If I say, if one of the characters speaks the phonetically memorized phrase from the base of the silver statue in the pool room, the door Ajax will allow the group through. So yes, essentially that room is the entranceway to the second dungeon. I had to jump down there because this is a small room. I had to jump down there because I thought if they're reading that inscriptions to be able to get their way down to the next level, I'll just write it on there that it's available. Lots of other stuff there. It needs tidying up, the busted stat block there. But we're nearly done on this room. Where are we? There's the giant crab. Okay, so the silver is tarnished but clear of some pressure of the statue. It's been pointed down its feet where a plaque can be seen on the surface. Set right in for the stone devil. In the tarnished silver. Can be memorized. Despite being a different language to the reader. If American is spoken to the door named Ajax. Whoops. In the entrance hall to level 2. So yes, that was again thanks again to Michael Curtis's book, because I rolled on a table that said that there'll be something there can be memorized phonetically but not read. I quite like that. It's like an interesting quirk that if they read it they can actually say it but they don't know what it means. And then I had monster, and it's a giant crab in the murky water. It's hungry and will attempt to hide in shallows. So I changed the hide in shadows to hide in shallows. So I've said there's a 75% chance it will remain hidden, and its first attack will be like a surprise by a nasty claw up on the leg. And then I've said special can hide in shallows 75% of the time. If the crab is hidden and the party don't make attempts to search for anything in the water, murky water. Oh, I've said it will auto crit on its first strike because it's going to get an absolutely perfect attack on a leg. So I think actually I gave it 2 action dice. I'm going to give it 1 because I think that's quite powerful if it doesn't make attempts to search for anything in the murky water. it will auto-crit its first hidden strike, typically against a character's legs, so that's going to be a bit nasty. And that hit points isn't right, so I need to remind myself to put the hit points in, which I think I'm just going to say that it's got 13, maybe 14, because it's a +2. I would work out that specifically, but I'm not going to bother. I'll just stick 14 straight in. So then I've said also the entire structure will retract into the floor, protecting the silver, protecting it. And so I'm looking at something I've written before, so I'm doing some basic editing while I'm at it here. And the trap will trigger if a character attempts to pull, yank, or cut any part of the silver. Or cut any part of the silver statue. Get rid of all that. I'll just say, I don't need to say very suddenly, I'll just say a large block will fall onto the full stone plinth whilst the statue will sink rapidly below the surface of the water, leaving anyone behind to face the crushing might of a massive block of obsidian from above. Okay, so that's like a nasty trap anyway. That's it, done. So there's a nasty crab in there that's going to try to hide in shallows if they try and forge their way over to the statue. So that's probably just worth saying as well. So the plinth is a stone platform with sat on a pool of water that looks deep, 4 to 6 foot. And I'll just use the word murky in there again, just to make it difficult to see things. Characters will have to forge away. Statue. And then the only thing about the inscription, I said, if the statue trap is triggered, the inscribed phrase is left behind. Along. So that's just to say that they may trigger the issue, but may trigger the trap, but they can still get to read that piece of text, just so it's not too harsh that the actual text is hidden completely after the destruction. Although, again, that's up to the judge. They could say that it's all crushed underneath there. So this was room 2. So this was to the south of the dungeon entrance hall. So room 2 here, and this has it's like an armory, plus it's got a metal grilled floor with a flaming location in the middle, which I'll just describe. And again, I need to do the whole read aloud conversion on here because I didn't give it a read aloud, although I just attempt to do that by putting that in italics and just see what happens. This room has a blackened metal grill for a floor with occasional bursts of flame that flare up from beneath the grill. It's otherwise filled with a selection of weapons lined up on a metal frame at the south of the room. Weapons include a bronze spear, a hand axe, a shield, and 2 throwing daggers. They are all ancient, however the bronze materials used to make them have prevented corrosion. They like to blunt after 4 weeks of use and require repair. I won't need to write that. So that is not read aloud. Basically, just to separate that, I can just bring that down a line or 2 and just the weapons are ancient. So if they start to use them, they'll start to blunt. Maybe they won't know the properties of bronze or something, so why not stick that on there anyway? And then also, what I didn't mention in the center, and I'll just finish the read aloud and say, in the center, is a 4 foot tall, 5 foot tall metal framed construction. What was I going to say? No, metal framed stand is probably the best way to put it, with a wire mesh on the top. The flames constantly lick around this metal, making a small nest nearly red hot. A medium-sized, I'll just say a large egg. I'm going to call it a black egg. Sits atop the frame. There you go. So in the centre of the room, so now this is the judge bit, in the centre of the room is a furnace-like contraption with a wire nest on top of it. The flames from the floor are sucked up towards this red hot furnace, red hot nest of wire. And on top of the confused wire mesh is a black egg wreathed in flame. The egg has a companion dragon to be hatched for Idena Goddess before she was held captive within the complex. She wasn't held captive, so just because I've changed that as I've worked on, so I've said Idena Goddess before she was thrown before the temple was thrown into this realm. The dragon is now stillborn after centuries, I'll just say. After centuries of neglect, the dragon is now stillborn and undead within the egg, and may attempt to latch onto players as a parent if the egg is held and cracks open. If players attempt to cross the room, they are required to make a stamina, just an agility check will do. Agility check of DC 15 to avoid the flames. One roll is required to retrieve the egg, and one roll is required per weapon to reach the rack and return to the safety of the door. Yeah, so basically the weapons are going to be spread out so they can make a dash over, try and avoid the flames as they lick up from the metalwork below, and they can also try and attempt to get the egg if they like. Probably should, I don't want to detail it too much, but I could do like a hot potato situation with the egg because it is kind of very hot on the top there. What I haven't done either is detail the stats of the small unborn dragon, because when that pops out, it'll try and bond to someone in the party, and what I want to do is make that quite interesting and quirky, but I haven't sorted that out yet, so that's something to do. So that's room 2, and then I know there's some other rooms where I need another stat block now to start tidying up the other rooms. So I'll just copy this giant crab. I'm going to reuse that, and then just come up again and remind myself of the, remind myself of the dungeon there. So basically there's these 2 rooms up here, room 6 and room 5, which both have keys in them, and I shall dig that out. Corridors there. Okay, so again, room 6, what I haven't done is a read aloud, but I've also got some undead in there. So let's get those dealt with, and let's sort out this room in terms of giving it a proper read aloud in that room as well. It's me. That seems like a decent enough read aloud. A large dusty meeting room with 4 skeletal figures sitting at a large stone table in the centre of the room. Some food remains can be seen scattered along with dusty plates. And utensils. I'll just say and knives. So here we go. When entering the room, the party's torches are drawn toward the center of the table as if by some invisible thread. They can, or magic, I'm just saying. They can notice this through experimentation or by an intelligence check of DC 10. So basically, all of their torches are drawn towards that table. If the table is approached, the 4 skeletal figures will rise and fight to defend the room, attempting to force the party back out to the corridor. They won't follow anyone out of the room except to defend themselves and then return to their ancient dinner. So here's with their stats, and I called them Jade Bones, and I sort of based them on a skeleton. So let's just put that in the top there, Jade Bones. I will write skeleton underneath as a kind of undead skeleton, or just, I could give it a class of that's undead, but I call it skeleton. Tell you what, that's a nasty little feature of Google Google Docs. When you start to type it, if you're inside a table, it hides the text. So you go to yourself, what have I just done? I don't know. Okay. Thank you for spell check. So Jade Bones is skeleton. Initiative I've got down as 0. Alignment chaotic. AC I've got down as 9, so very basic AC. And hit dice I've got 1d6. So again, they're easy to bring down these, but they have an interesting feature that I wrote up, and their move is just 30 foot. Oh, that reminds me, I probably didn't change the move on the crab. And 1 action die. So they've got clawed hands, which they can attack with, which is 1d3, and that's a simple +0 because they are a basic skeleton. And 1 action dice, so fortitude, let's get that down in there, +0, reflex 0, will +0 actually, so they're, again, skeletons don't have much going for them in terms of their basic saves. And so this is where I pull out the special description, because this is where they have some dozens of small jade fire beetles inside their chest cavity, which is the thing that makes them a little bit more powerful and interesting. And soon have this tidied up. Right, so I don't know what I was writing in there. Impossible to read. Let me get rid of it, and then I'll bring it. Oh, actually, there I go. 1d6, 30 foot. So that's the jade fire beetles, basically. So skeleton and beetle. So dozens of in their chest cavity can spit fire each round. The skeleton and the beetles can make an attack on the same initiative. So it's basically going to have 2d20 because one of the attacks is the beetles. Any successful attack with the skeleton will also drain 1d2 points of strength. Once killed, the jade beetles disperse and find cracks and holes in the floor to escape. So what did I say? I think I just said 1d6 up to 30 foot. So I'll just put that into the next section and just get rid of that table, which is all messed up. It's funny, Control X over a table often gets rid of it, whereas a delete won't. That's not liking that at all. It's gone now. the unmovable table. So I'll just call it beetle fire rather than beetle ranged. and that is going to be, we'll give that a +1, and it's 1d6. So with 4 of them in there, that's 4 sets of claws and 4 sets of fire. And I'll just put to 30 foot on there, just 30 foot range. The fire can spit out to 30 foot. And I call it jade fire because they're jade beetles. Out to 30 foot. So that's it. There's beetles in that room, and the jade bone's done. But I just, as I've said, I've done the intro there. Bring it all onto the same page, just so I'm working. When into the room, parties, torches. If the table is approached, the 4 skeleton figures will rise and fight to defend the room, attempting to force the party back. And there they are, and there's their special as well under their block. And that's totally the wrong hits. I'm just going to say, I'm going to give them 4. Escape and find another host. So room 5, a large room featuring a range of old sacks, storage racks, and dusty. So again, need to make this more read aloud like, so that it's broken up neatly as a judge would read it. A large room featuring a range of sacks. On 2 of the 5 barrels in the room can be seen a set of verdant green weeds. On close inspection, they have small crystal-like drooping flowers. A wizard checking them can make a D20 spell check and will be able to scry to a chamber beneath this floor. Can determine that they are, trying to think of a word, distance gems. I'm going to call them a different word. I'm going to say call them aggle gems. If successful, chain release this floor in the oblex. You'll see a group of 20 large humanoids with various knoll-like beast heads sitting in a circle of prayer to a ball of light about the size of a troll head suspended. And so there's 1 barrel containing stale old cheese that through 1,000 years of aging in perfect conditions is now magically imbued and will allow the eater to gain a temporary, I haven't written that on there yet, and I'll just say 1d4 hit points. There are 6 wheels of cheese, small wheels of cheese, I'll call them. Wheels of cheese with this ability, healing property. And I said to be concerned, to be confirmed. So I've done that now. You eat a piece of that cheese and you'll get your hit points restored. If I can only spell that correctly. Thank you, autocorrect. There are 6 more wheels of cheese of this healing poultry wrapped in red wax. I'm going to call it green wax, otherwise they'll call them baby bells. So now this is a key room now, because this is where Idenea, the goddess, is resting, in room 3. If I go back up to the map, just to sort of detail that, she needs the stat block sorted as well. Map here. So room 3, down this end, so the south of the building, is where she resides, and they will meet her and see this unusual visage of her having her... First of all, they see an illusion, which is her dream, because she's a god having a dream, and it kind of visualizes it while she sleeps. Plus, they will be able to see her if they kind of see through the illusion. So she's got a big old stat block there. So let me get it out of that rubbishy stat block so I can fit it into the better looking one. Take her kind of description text out of that. There's loads of it actually. Take that all out first. That's still not all of it. It continues on. Well, she is a god, so I was writing up quite a lot about her in the process. So she is resting in that chamber, and let me get rid of this. So she can regenerate because she's a goddess. She can fire a bolt of blue fire from her eyes, causing 2d4 damage to any target 3 times a day. I'm going to up that to, I'm going to say, because she's a goddess, I'm going to say 6 times a day. Also, I need to increase her action die. I'm sure I only gave her 1. Yeah, no, I did say times 2. So let me get stat block, and then we can start to see what she looks like when it's tidied up into a proper stat block. And use that Jade Bones one. Need a drink. Again, she was quite early in this process, a couple of months ago, I think, when I was doing her. So, so her name is Idenea. She's a god. She has initiative +4. She's pretty swift. AC 18, hard to hit. Alignment is neutral. It does 5d8 +4. And I gave her a move of 30, but I'm tempted to give her a move of 40, just so she moves very swiftly. So, Fortitude 2, Reflex 3, Will 4. Fortitude 2, Reflex 3, Will 4. And the only other thing I need from here is our attacks, which I'll just pull out of that block. What a mess this old stat block was. It's all gone sideways. Now let me read it out. It's going to be too much hassle. Well, 1d6, and she's got like a fist of a +5. That sounds fine. +5, and it's 1d6 damage. And she doesn't have any beetle fire. So I think that's the lot from the block. So we'll delete that now and see clearly what's going on. I deleted that time. Thanks, Google Docs, for letting me delete a table. That's often what you like to try and refuse to do. So I've got 2d20 action dice for her. Move 30. Seem to have made that go to the middle. Don't know why. So let's get this room properly done with the read aloud block. So I've said here the room is currently vision obscured. So let's bring that to the top because that's what she's got here. Stick that in. So italic to make it correct as I read aloud. And now just see as I read it back. So the room is currently a vision obscured by smoke-filled river, showing a cowled figure on a pole-pushed small boat. This is an illusion and is eyed in air, dreaming of her past life as a gatekeeper, so we don't want to say that. Get rid of that. Okay, so get rid of my echo on my voice as well. And bring this down here and get rid of the italic. So the room is currently vision obscured by smoke. Get rid of the of. Obscured by smoke. Sluggish. Grey river. Dark river. With a cowed figure on a pole-pushed small boat. And I'll just say, as the vision clears, a horrific and unnerving scene humanoid can be resting on its side. As the vision clears, an unnerving scene of a large humanoid can be. As the vision clears, an unnerving scene of a large humanoid is resting, is visible on its side. And is just eyeballs on stalks with brain and vascular system. Laid out in human proportions. Head, size of a 7 foot tall sleeping humanoid. So how does that read back? So the room is currently a vision obscured by smoke and showing a sluggish dark river with a cowled figure standing. As you enter the room, the vision fades to reveal a flagstone floor room with something laying down at back wall. That will do for now, at least, anyway. As the vision clears, an unnerving scene of a large humanoid is visible on its side and is just eyeballs on stalks with brain and vascular system, with a brain and vascular system laid out in human proportions, stretching to an estimated size of a 7 foot tall sleeping animal. A beating heart can be seen in the chest, because they don't know it's a female at the moment. And then I'll get rid of that bit. So they now see identity. So after 1,000 years trapped in the obelisk, she is beginning to fade. Her followers believing she has died. In this current state, she is weak. However, she is seeking followers because with enough people believing her, she will regain her strength and true form. I will just say the vision was her current dream as she drifts near death and clears when she is woken by the party, I'll say. She's lost in prisons and currently is lost in the prison and currently asleep, laying on her side at the back of the chamber. And then this is her special, so this needs to come under the stat block that we were going to put in. And there it is. So I'll just put all this underneath her stat block because it's her kind of magic and stuff. The only other thing I need to do is at some point make up a real deity for her, or patron, with everything that comes with that in the Dungeon Crawl Classics setting, which would make her even more powerful if they maybe even decide to pledge their loyalty to her or seek her patronage. When I want to, okay, so let's read out some stuff. So special, precognitive. So this was rolled out of the monster book. She is able to roll a d12 to confirm luck points at the start of a combat and use them to avoid danger or other incoming damage by using 1 point to avoid all damage from a single source. And I'm going to say physical source rather than magical, so she can just avoid any blade easily. She regenerates 1d8 hit points, even on the round she's killed. She can use prestidigitation to make items like weapons, armor, and small halflings disappear. This is an illusion, and the target must make a DC 12 will save, or the item or halfling will vanish. This is an illusion. This will fade, I'll just say. And I'm going to say that that's after 1d10 minutes. To say that should be twice a day. Six times action, firebolt of blue fire from her eyes, a bolt. Oh no, it is. You shouldn't say shoot. Lots of editing's going on here. Bolts of blue fire that will cause 2d4 damage to any target. When a monster or character reduced to 0 hit points, she can use her ability past the pearly gates to snatch the spirit before they die. The spirit form of the dead target will join and follow her like a translucent bobbing witchlight. Bobbing witchlight. These spirits can be consumed with a howl and turned into additional bolts of blue fire. and then spells. So there she is. That's Idenea. She's cleaned up a bit her stat block, and she's a god, so I probably need to do a deity thing for her and plan that out. Maybe not next week, but maybe in a couple of weeks' time, plan that out. So plot options for her. Idenea may offer to be a patron or deity for one of the more of the players as part of entering a bargain to plea for help. She can promise riches from a past life, which is sort of lower down in a chamber of the temple. Due to her being close to final expiration, her powers are reducing. It is also having an impact on the nearby undead and magic wounds. They are disturbed by one of such great power within the region. So basically, I'd already detailed out how she'd been having an effect on some of the other undead further out as she slowly dies. And then I've just put a note, possible magic item near her or on her person. I haven't detailed that. Oh, I have. A chest in a room beside the sleeping formula. The chest is called the Yolt and is a semi-intelligent. It will respond to commands from Idenea and alert her if it attempts to steal its contents are made. Its appearance is very old worn with brass handles, a simple pair of keyholes. When it starts to move, it uses clawed crow feet at each corner of the chest to move up to 30 foot per round. And then we had the mortifier longsword. So I don't need to put that. Look and take that note out because I actually did do the magic items that are with her. The Mortifier, 5 intelligence, lawful, +1 attack and damage, wants to defend against the incursion of chaos, baleful against wizard. It can summon minions to support the wielder once per day during a combat. And I've said it's a cocky dictator. The Mortifier is always wanting to advise on the best. I'm going to give that a capital M. The best tactical moves for any creatures it summons. It will impress. So I need to put a note in here of the kind of monsters it summons, so that's another task for me, which will require a stat block. So yeah, that's quite a nasty sword. I mean, anything else I probably need to give it a downside, don't I? It's all quite positive, but it will impress and urge on the wielder to suggest a specific move for the summon monsters. So I probably need to just colour that in a bit. And then some other outcomes for her. After initial encounter, she'll ask for help. She has been prevented from reaching the worship chamber on the next level down and can provide information how to reach the next level. She will offer the Mortifier sword as a gift to those that agree to aid her. With the passage of 1,000 years of her fading life, she's forgotten what life lives below on the next level. She only knows the sense of repulsion she has when trying to access the lower levels, so there's something that's preventing her getting down there. And then on to room 4, which is the one with a secret trap to get you down to the next floor. So that's practically that whole floor done. And Idenea cleaned up. And let me look at the dungeon map again. Probably need to put this on an overlay so I can get it quickly. So yeah, so maybe I can zoom out actually so you can see that a bit better as well. 25%. There it is. So that's the first level. So we've had the entranceway here. We went into the crab-infested room with a statue that kind of sinks into the ground and has some text which allows you, grants you entranceway. 6. This was, I believe, the room with this is the room with the skeletons, the jade bones, which have the fiery creatures in their chest. This was the sort of just a basic storeroom. There's little in there apart from some unusual plants that they could find out how to use. Couple of corridors, and 2, this is where the undead dragon, unborn, stillborn egg of a dragon, which was meant to be a pet of Idenea, but 1,000 forgotten years have passed and it's just sat there in flames in its undead form. If they crack that egg open, it'll try and bond itself with one of the characters. So I need to detail the stats out and what that bond will look like and what it will give them. I was thinking that it might try and seek a wizard or someone with some kind of magical ability to bond with. And then Idenea that we just detailed, she's in this room 3 here, and this room 4 is the route down to the next level, and I have nearly done most of the next level, and what we can do next week is I'll tidy that up as well. I think what I'll do next week too is before I join I'll have all the stat blocks cleaned up first so that there's no need to just be doing a lot of stat blocks, but it's good to go through them again and tidy them up as I work, so it's not too bad. So yes, nearly done. Let me just...
You will cut off your legs, arms and your head.
Back up to the top. So what are we up to page-wise? What's the page count? 73 pages. That's not too bad for doing this live, but actually a lot of it is the crap though. A lot of it is these stat blocks which have stretched up my page count, which I need to tidy them all out. Yeah, so getting there slowly. I'm glad I finished those barrows last week, and then I've now started to tidy up the main dungeon. There's not a great deal left to do. I mean, I started a couple of weeks ago doing the kind of proper intro in the Dungeon Crawl Classic style, and then a bit about her waning power. I don't know, that god that we've just started up. And then this Correctionist, which is a malfunctioning temple assistant, which is down on the layer below her, which is the reason all her followers have forgotten her, because he's no longer teaching them about the god that they should be worshipping, and without that she's fading, which is why she's just a vascular form and a brain and a heart beating in her chest now, because she's nearly faded to nothing. And I quite like that, the horrific visage of, you see a god, but you know, all it is a bunch of veins and eyes, so it's going to look a bit scary too. And maybe she'll reform, so I could probably put some detail on that. If she gets a few followers, like bits of her image will maybe start to reform her skin or something like that. And the barrows that went on from there. So yeah, I think I've done enough editing this week, so I'm going to call it a day. I've done my hour and a half nearly, and yeah, looking forward to bringing this together again next week. I've actually got, yeah, thanks Just Honor for hanging out, that's great of you. Next week I've got a new, if I shoot down on my desk, but I've got like a graphics tablet, and I was thinking of maybe, because I've been like cleaning up the document there and getting the stat blocks done, I need to clean the map up a bit more, and I may actually use my tablet to draw some of the map and the dungeon, because the dungeon's very vanilla. If we look again at that overall map of any of the dungeons, you can see that they don't have, when I get there, nearly there. So that's the barrow, and it's very simple. What I want to do is just edit this, because I've got these as images. I want to edit these and add in the details, like there's some skulls in a pile there, there's some carpets on the floor here, just some basic details. And also I picked up an old book this last week, an old adventure book that's from the 1980s, and it had on every page, whenever it detailed a room, it had a very tiny thumbnail of the dungeon. So when you were here, you'd see the thumbnail of where that room was, which was just like only a small thing, you know, about a couple of paragraphs deep, that was an image of the dungeon. So it stops you having to leap back and check the map, you know, because we all do that. We page through a book and go, oh, I need to go back to page 10 where the map is. So I thought maybe I'd put some thumbnails in here too. That's another one. No, I didn't draw those, and I'm glad you asked, because I can show you where I got those. They're from this website called One Page Dungeon. And if you go to this URL, if you pause the screen momentarily and go to that, the weirdest named thing ever, isn't it? Whatever at .itch.io, One Page Dungeon, and it randomly creates dungeons for you like this. You just you hit enter, and it will disappear off, and it will come back after a little while, generating a new dungeon for you. That's a vast one. That's a bug for you. Look, it's put the 4 and the 2's upside down. I wonder why that one. The whole thing's upside down. Okay, so something's gone wrong with their code there. Unless that's the name of it, some sort of silly dungeon. Let's try again, actually, see if it puts the dungeon the right way around. So I use this and I export it out to a ping file, and then I edit it by adding extra bits and pieces on. So it does seem to have had a problem there. It's not rendered that correctly, has it? This looks like a big one as well. Oh, they've all gone upside down. I wonder why they've gone upside down. Never seen that before. I wonder if I can reposition notes, or let's see what the toggling does down here. Rotate to fit R. Let's see if that makes any difference to it. I can see that they've done some extras with it. They've got some extra like little bits and pieces. I wonder if that's had any. You know, it's rotated straight, but it's still upside down. I bet it won't do that if you try that website out. It's probably either I've caused a bug or something else is wrong there. But yeah, it's good to have a look at that. Save it to your bookmarks. Thanks. Right, so that's me done then. So thanks for listening in. This has been Robin Fitton doing some Dungeon Crawl Classics dungeon writing, and I'm nearly getting there. What do I think I've got? Maybe 5 sessions more left to get this into a basic shape for playtesting, I think. And yeah, nearly done. So thanks for listening in, and goodbye. I'll stop streaming now. Bye.